Alrighty. Okay, so we have finally reached chapter 10 after almost 10 months, I think. So today we are gonna read chapter 10 of Gutters. Finally! We are in the double digits now. Thank God. Alrighty. They wind up staying in the bunker for several days while Peter's ankle mends. Each day is spent much like the last. Netherlands is always awake before either of them and leaps to the surface to go scavenging, while Denmark stays behind with Peter and plays games with him. They tear several pages out of the sketchbook to make a shoddy deck of cards, and Denmark teaches him how to play rummy and blackjack, neither of which works very well given that they can see the imprint of the numbers through the paper. But they persevere, and by the end of several days, Denmark begrudgingly admits that Peter has surpassed him in skill and offers him to teach him more swears as a reward. A prize that Peter puts on hold, not wanting to trip over his own mouth again with Denmark's bizarre way of speaking. "It's too hard," he tells him. "Teach me how to say something dirty in a language that actually makes sense." He spends over an hour trying to flop through Old Norse before he realizes that Denmark is toying with him, and he throws a wadded-up ball of paper at his head and demands to know what perkele means. Denmark tells him it means "I love Sweden" in Finnish, and encourages him to use the word frequently whenever they reunite with the others. Things remain mostly uneventful. Netherlands returns around the same time each day, empty-handed every time, and gives them a rundown of what he has seen for the day. A newly fallen tree here, prints in the ash there. He doesn't talk much when they are all together, but Peter catches him and Denmark talking quietly during odd hours of the night when they think he is asleep, trading information based on their travels and the horrors they have encountered. By pretending to slumber, he learns that Switzerland has fallen into chaos, and that the small surviving society there has completely dissolved into violence and human butchery, people stalking each other for resources and food, regardless of where it comes from, and have begun a slow spread into Austria and southern Germany. "Not far from where we started," Denmark tells Netherlands. "They're literally right behind us." Seelan tries not to listen too deeply to their conversations. It scares him too much to really know, but curiosity has always been his weakness, and no matter how hard he tries, he always manages to keep one ear trained on them, catching terrible stories every night. Waterlogged bodies in Croatia, cannibals in Hungary, seemingly endless sinkholes in Slovenia, complete silence in Belgium. He tries to keep his head buried in the pillows on the third night after a particularly dark story about Denmark finding a bunker full of swollen bodies in Nepal's. I think that's how you pronounce it. Whatever. It reminds him too much of the woman that cared for him when he first woke up. He doesn't want to know about the smell or how long it took Denmark to bury each of them. It's too gruesome, too real, and too much to think about. He turns over and starts to cover his ears, but a single word in their soft conversation immediately grabs his attention. France. "Ran into France a few months ago," Netherlands tells him over the edge of his cup. They were on their way to shelter in Leipzig? I don't know these European words. The legs of Denmark's chair clack loudly against the floor when he lurches forward to catch his dropped coffee. "What? France is here? He's okay?" Denmark shrugs. "He's alive." Denmark wipes the spilled drink off of the front of his coat. "How was he? Were you able to talk to him at all?" "He doesn't have arms anymore. He's got most of the left one, but the right one's gone at the shoulder." He sips his water. "He was with Germany and England. Bunch of civilians, too." Denmark sags in relief. "Oh shit, that's such a relief. They're still okay?" "Germany's doing alright. Still an OCD tight ass, anyhow. England doesn't talk much on account of the heat from before, but that's pretty much expected." "Heat? What do you mean?" Netherlands raises a brow. "You know how if you ever fall into a fire you're not supposed to gasp?" "Yeah." "Same thing applies to the end of the world." "Oh." Jan sets his empty cup down and stretches. Anyway, they wouldn't stay long. Too many sick people to dawdle. And they had at least a dozen people with them. Were they looking for anyone by any chance? Denmark pauses. Oh. Oof. I just skipped a whole entire sentence. Okay, Denmark pauses and glances over at Peter, who is still feigning sleep. Were they looking for anyone by chance? You mean the kid? He has a name, you know. He rolls his eyes. You mean Peter? Yeah. Netherlands stare flits over to Peter's prone form. The only people they asked me about were Prussia and Spain. They didn't mention him at all? No. Their conversation continues late into the night, the two of them completely unaware of the conflicting tears on Peter's face. On the morning of the fourth day, Denmark exudes an astounding burst of perceptiveness and notices how quiet Sealand has been all morning. He pauses from his task of repairing a tear in his jacket long enough to sit down in front of him, taking his hands and peering at him in concern. His mouth turned down in a scowl when Peter refuses to meet his gaze. What's the matter? He asks him gently. You've been weird all day. Does your ankle hurt? No. He tries to pull his hands free of Denmark's, but the stubborn Dane keeps his fingers locked solid with his own. I'm okay. No, you aren't. Yes, I am. No, you aren't. Peter glares at him. You walked like a little kid. It's only fair when I'm arguing with a little kid. I'm not a little kid. Denmark sighs and glowers at him. Then stop pouting like a little kid and tell me what's wrong. I can't make you feel better if I don't know what's bothering you. Peter bites his lip. I don't need anyone to make me feel better. Peter, I heard you in the Netherlands talking about England and France last night, he blurts. He digs his fingers into Denmark's hands and looks at the floor, his face heated in emotion that is too sad to be anger and too lasting to be embarrassment. I just thought... He can feel the heat rising to his eyes. Arthur's not even looking for me. Denmark's expression softens when Peter trails off into indignant sniffling and reaches a hand out to rub the back of his head, settling on the back of his neck and pulling him into a hug at the first sign of tears. He doesn't say anything. He just pulls him into his lap and wraps him up, patient and quiet, while Sealand cries into his shoulder, small hands fisted into the front of his shirt as he trembles his way through the fit he has been fighting all morning. He's vaguely aware of Denmark's rough hands stroking his hair, but it is hardly a comfort when it only reminds him of how much smaller England's hands were, and how he never did anything like this when Peter was upset. He never used to hate England. He just resented him for never acknowledging him. He never... Oof. He never complained about the lack of familial connections, because he never wanted Arthur to be any sort of caretaker, even in the fatherly sense. Where am I? He didn't mind that Arthur was never really there, because at least he knew that, in his own way, he still cared enough to occasionally write him a letter, or present him with a birthday gift, or stop by for a visit between meetings. But this is different. He doesn't even care, he sobs. I could be dead, and he doesn't care. Denmark presses his cheek to the top of his head and shushes him. Peter, that's not true, and you know it. Then how come he isn't looking for me? He's looking for Spain and Prussia, so how come... He cuts himself off with an ill-timed cough and doesn't bother picking the sentence back up. I don't know what he's thinking, Denmark murmurs into his hair. Someone might have told him they saw you dead, or maybe he's just still too stubborn to admit that he's worried about you. But none of that means he doesn't care. He draws back enough to run his thumb over Peter's cheekbone, pushing the tracks of tears away. The important thing is that he's okay, and we know he's somewhere in Leipzig. Leipzig is on our way, and we'll check every bunker we find as we go. and then you can ask him yourself. He catches Peter's chin and gently lifts his face to look at him. And if he isn't happy to see you, I promise to personally drag him out into the ash so that you can beat the hell out of him. He stares at him seriously. Okay? Peter sniffs and rubs the back of his hand over his eyes. He still doesn't trust himself to talk, so he offers Denmark a shaky nod, which appeases the older man enough to smile. He claps his shoulder just hard enough to jostle him and sits him back onto the bed. Good. Now come on. He gets to his feet to retrieve their awkward deck of cards. You can whoop my ass at blackjack again. Netherlands returns much later than usual that night and bothers with no pleasantries when he arrives. He throws his coat onto the table, barely missing their game, and heads straight for the bed. We're leaving tomorrow, he tells them. His voice is flat and he doesn't even look at them. Make sure you're packed and ready to go by dawn. Denmark and Sealand exchange a confused glance, and Denmark rushes out of his seat to follow him to the mattress. What's the rush? People are getting closer. We need to get a move on. He yanks the covers up over his shoulders and turns over. This is the last night you get a bed. Enjoy it. He ends the conversation there by stuffing his head under the blankets and deflating with an exhausted sigh that leaves Denmark standing with a clueless expression on his face while Peter just blinks at them both. Denmark shrugs and picks up their backpack from under the card table. I guess we're leaving in the morning. He starts to place canned goods into the bag along with Peter's sketchbook. Wait. Oh, that's... Oof. That wasn't even Peter speaking. He starts to place canned goods into the bag along with Peter's sketchbook and their map. If your ankle isn't up to it, I can carry you. I think it's okay. Peter slides to the floor to illustrate his point and begins collecting his belongings as well. Do you think he packed already? Probably. He's always been the kind of guy to be prepared. Peter nods. You know him pretty well, huh? Oh, yeah. He and I go way back. Denmark laughs and tosses Peter his newly hemmed jacket. We fought each other. We fought together. We actually wrote to each other during the Second World War when neither of us were allowed to talk to our families. After all the bullshit, though, we mostly just hung out a lot. He grins. He's the one guy I know who likes bicycles as much as I do. Norway said that you guys went camping a lot. He nods. We did. We used to take our bikes out into the woods a few times a month to just go relax. You mean get high, right? Denmark whirls on him, a thoroughly horrified look plastered to every inch of his face. Who told you that? No one. So I'm right, then. Denmark rolls his eyes. All right, fine. Yes, we occasionally may have shared a bag of recreational drugs. He points at him. But that was rare. It was mostly just beer and cigarettes over a campfire. Drugs are bad. Got it? Peter grins. I don't think I could find any now, even if I wanted to. Denmark ponders that for a moment, seemingly satisfied with his answer, before turning his head to peer over at Netherlands, checking if he's still up by tossing a crumpled used paper at him. It bounces off his shoulders, and when it elicits no reaction, Denmark waves Peter in close. Can you keep a secret? Peter's eyebrows raise and he nods. Okay. Denmark glances back at Jan one more time and reaches into his pocket, pulling out a plastic film canister. I found this about a week before I found you. He flips the cap off with his thumb and shakes the contents out into his hand. I was saving it just in case I ever found him. In his palm, half of an unfiltered cigarette sits in nearly pristine condition. I'm going to give it to him once we get out of here, like a surprise. Peter stares at him. That's a weird present. Oh, be quiet. He carefully places the cigarette back into the canister. A present is a present. I just want him to know that I'm happy he's coming with us. I think he knows. Peter watches him tuck the container back into his pocket. You've kind of been all over him. Have not. Have too. Name one instance. Last night, you guys were snuggling. Okay, Ned Den is actually kind of cute, though. Oof. Denmark's face turns an unflattering shade of red as he grabs Peter by the waist and tosses him into the bed. Go to sleep. Oof. Oof. Morning comes too quickly. Peter wakes to Netherland's rough hands shaking his shoulders and tugging the covers off of him and Denmark both, muttering around his plastic straw at them to get up. Denmark manages a bleary confirmation of consciousness, but Jan doesn't buy it and hauls him upright by the collar of his shirt. Get your coats, he tells them. We're going now. Denmark staggers to his feet and yawns. Hold your horses, man. Shit. He scrubs a hand through his hair and nudges Peter over. The mess up there will still be there in 5 minutes. Come on, kiddo, time to get up. Peter groans into his arms, but complies and wobbles up as well. What time is it? He mumbles. Netherlands doesn't turn around. Just before dawn. How come we have to leave so early? Because. Denmark frowns and helps Peter into his coat. You're acting weird. It's early, I want to smoke. Denmark zips Peter up and grins. Well, before we head out, I've got something for you. He starts to reach into his pocket, but Netherlands cuts him off. Later. He finally turns around. You ready yet? Denmark's smile falters. Right. Later then. He coughs. Yeah, we're ready. He eyes Jan's empty hands. You aren't bringing anything? No. Not even food? Don't have a bag to bring it in. Man, we can make you a bag. You've got all these boxes. Matthias! Netherlands shoots him a hard stare. I'm not bringing anything. Peter pauses in lacing up his boots, just in time to catch the tense silence that hangs between them before Jan turns back to the ladder and spits out the split remains of the straw. Now hurry up. Denmark shakes his head and picks up Peter's backpack. It's full of cans, so I'll carry it for now, he says. He checks to make sure that Peter has his goggles around his neck and goes through their bag. Oof. Hang on. Okay, oof. I'm going to end it there. Alright. Okay, the second part will probably be out, today, if this one uploads. Alright. Have a good day or night, and I will see you, or technically talk to you, I guess? I don't know. Whatever. Oof. But yeah. So, hang on, let me check how many minutes are left. Oh, we've only got 9 minutes left, and this is a 21-minute chapter. Yes, so close. Alrighty, so have a good day or night. Once again, I thank you if you made it this far. Bye-bye.